Thanks for joining us.
Talkline Network Radio, America's longest-running Jewish broadcast network, the voice of the Jewish community.
Welcome to the podcast.
You are now tuned in to this episode of our podcast. Today, we are going to interview some of the greatest and most influential minds in our field. And now, please welcome your host.
You're listening to Talkline with Zev Brenner, America's premier Jewish broadcast on the air since 1981.
And we're back. We have a very interesting story about an attorney who lives in Washington, D.C., originally from Peru, and just discovered 7 years ago that her great-grandfather was Jewish. He kept it a secret, and she's rediscovered Jewish relatives because of that. And she herself is studying about Judaism, maybe even wants to convert. So, Karen Ruth, thank you for joining us. Esquire from Washington, thank you for being part of our show.
Thank you for having me.
So let's begin. You grew up as a Catholic. Your family is Catholic.
Yes.
You were born in Peru. You eventually moved to the United States. So you had no idea that your great-grandfather was Jewish?
No. It's something that the family had wanted to keep secret, because of the unfortunate history of, German Jews. So we actually ended up moving to a community that was very Jewish and Chinese. And funnily enough, it was the Chinese that gravitated towards me a little bit more because I'm mixed. I look a little bit Asian, although I'm not.
So here you are. You grew up Catholic. Your family's a Catholic. So what happened 7 years ago that you discovered that your great-grandfather was a Jewish, but he hid the fact that he was Judaism from his family? Because he married a non-Jewish woman and started a family.
I mean, what was interesting is I had to kind of reframe a little bit my history and what I had learned, because all we were told were we're of German descent, because our last name sounds very German. And so I grew up learning about Germany, and I learned about the Holocaust. I learned about all the tragedies that happened. But I think things really changed when you're okay, that tragedy, that's my family. It's not just something in the history books or something that, and then I started, because of my family, learning about the history of all the people that perished and how they perished. And
when was that, 7 years ago that you started studying?
7 years ago. So it was the mayor of the town where they come from, Lichtenau in Baden-Württemberg. He wanted to find out what had happened to all the Jewish people that had once lived there. All that was left were gravestones. And so he commissioned a study and did a genetic study. A historical study regarding where people went. And he put together about 70 of us, 70 cousins that were related and dispersed throughout the world.
And he brought them all together to...
Yes, eventually, we had our first family reunion in New York, and then we had our second family reunion in Lichtenau, where he welcomed us, and we went to the grave sites, and we went to the houses that they had to flee from, and just kind of it was really interesting and connecting with my cousins.
Wow. So here you are, you meet your Jewish cousins for the first time. You didn't even know you had Jewish ancestry, and you're meeting with them. So what goes through your mind? Did your father know that he had Jewish roots?
Well, from what I understand from him, no, he didn't. But all he grew up saying, his hearing from his father was Jewish people are good. Always, kind of a good sentiment towards Jewish people. And that was really all that was conveyed to us regarding that. So once I met my cousins, actually, and I had grown up in Rockville, Maryland, which is so very Jewish. So I knew a lot about Jewish traditions and the like. And it was
you went to some bar mitzvahs, I'm sure.
Yeah. And I was always so curious. And I thought, and my cousins were they're Reformed Jews, very welcoming, very wanted to learn more about me, wanted to understand our history, what had happened. And it was just, I think it's a very interesting, psychological study, can you become a family after being torn apart for so long? And some of my cousins really made an effort to build some bonds together. And during the pandemic, I was able to actually connect with a lot of them over Zoom and talk to them and learn about them. And I've actually made two really, really good friends with my cousins. Like one is in London and the other one's in New York. And we speak regularly and they try to guide me. They're older than me. And so it's just nice to have that kind of, I love that they want us to be part of the family and to include us.
Now, what have you learned about your great grandfather? He obviously did not go through the Holocaust. He got out early and made it to Peru. What made him decide to bury? Do you have any idea to bury his Jewish identity, marry a non-Jewish woman, and be Catholic, basically?
I I think he turned Lutheran at the time.
Lutheran, okay.
I really do not know. I mean, Peru is mostly Catholic, so I don't know if it was a decision like so that he could, do business with everybody else, or that it was a decision. I don't know what drove him to it. Like all I know is that it happened, and but
Now,
I know,
did your great grandfather, did he have brothers, other relatives?
yes, all
And
his
what-
so his siblings ended up unfortunately going through the Holocaust. His brother, Michael Roos, which was known as Michael Ambach, he was a provider. He would like sell cattle to the local Germans, and so he was like, he'd lent them money, and so in order to get rid of the debt, they killed him. He was one of the first casualties of Kristallnacht. And then like my family, they were merchants in that area, and a lot of them got pursued and they had to leave and were put in concentration camps. So it's a very it's a terrible history.
So, was your great grandfather in touch with his brothers and other family members that
Well,
survived?
the thing is that he died before the Second World War, but they were shipping records of him going back and forth between like the United States and Germany. So who would have known? Back in the day, people did take the ship and if he had an international business, he would, there's like a few records of him like buying stuff from Europe or the United States. And so apparently he did very well. He would export lima beans and all kinds of like food or different things from Peru.
Fascinating. So, in other words, you had no contact with those relatives that survived the Holocaust up until 7 years ago that were Jewish. You just had your family that was Catholic, and you grew up thinking that you were Catholic.
Yeah, that I was 100% Catholic. That that's it. I mean, all I did was learn some German because I did think of German descent. I learned about the history of Germany and like, and that's pretty much it. Like until this new revelation, and then it added a lot of richness to my life. My cousins have made my life just knowing them better.
So now you're very interested in Judaism, correct?
Yeah, because how you say my cousins really want to be good people, and I really enjoy that. How do you say, they want to be a mensch, right? They have that aspiration, and they try to do mitzvahs, and I've learned at the lingo a little.
Now, are you considering converting to Judaism?
I have considered it, and I'm just, but I think it's one of those things you just need to learn more about. Like I am very new to it, and so yeah, I mean, it has crossed my mind, and I do go to synagogue sometimes, and I try to celebrate the holidays, and yeah.
Now, you're reaching out to the Jewish community because your father, who still lives in Peru, Hugo, is very, very sick. So you're reaching out to the Jewish community especially. Tell us about it.
Yeah, so my dad had a stroke, and after the stroke, we found out he had several issues. He had heart attack in 2007, and now his heart still doesn't pump well. He's only like his heart goes at 35 beats per minute, which is very, very low. And then he has diabetes, and his legs don't get enough circulation, and he also has a prostate problem. And so my dad has a lot of issues, and his wife has Alzheimer's to top it all off. So it's a very difficult package of maladies altogether. And at this time, we're doing a GoFundMe, and we've gone public with our GoFundMe, and are hopeful that other people can relate to something like this. Unfortunately, Peru doesn't have a good healthcare system that can accommodate people who, I mean, it's super expensive, which is like, I mean, imagine not having, I mean, the US, it's like maybe a third of what the cost would be to have an operation, but it's still significant. And you have the nurse, you have the meds, you have the exams, and right now, like, he's gone into sepsis, which is because of wearing the catheter for so long. And the reason I thought to reach out to the Jewish community is because I know it's a good community, and also a good community that helps each other, and we are sort of part of your community, even though through history we were kind of like, for some reason, had to be put aside. I mean, things. I mean, it's unfortunate that the Jews have been persecuted for so long, and people make decisions to sometimes step away from their origin.
Well, we'll give out the information. You'll give out where people can help in the GoFundMe. But I'm curious, 7 years ago, you discovered your Jewish ancestry. Did you ever discuss with your father what this all means about being Jewish? What was his reaction?
I mean, he just thought it was like a good thing. I mean, he has nothing but good sentiments towards the Jews. I mean, that's like, at least that was a great thing that my grandfather really did work on, making sure that that feeling does prevail, that, this is like a good group of people that, you can trust.
So what it sounds like, your grandfather knew that he came from Jews.
Oh, I'm sure he did, because that was his father. So
but he never discussed it with anybody. Nobody in the family knows anything about that.
Nope. Nobody. So yeah, it's. I mean, my grandfather lived through the Second World War, so I think he made a decision.
Hugo, your father needs help. How can people get in touch, or how can people help you with your GoFundMe to help your father?
Yeah, if they could donate anything at this point, like, we're just trying to, first, right now, he's in the intensive care unit, so we're trying to, make sure he can overcome sepsis, which is it can be mortal. So right now that's actually why I reached out to our friend in common to let him know what's going on, because it is a dire situation right now. And but after, like, hopefully we're able to, save him from that. He does need like a heart surgery and leg surgery and prostate surgery. So yeah, if they could reach out via the GoFundMe that I have provided you a link, I would really appreciate it.
If you just want to give, for people who are listening on the radio, where can people go? Is there a website, or where?
Yeah, it's if you go GoFundMe and then just put Carol and last name Roos, Roos, like it's under my sister's name, so they can go and Google Carol and then Roos GoFundMe, and that should bring up our specific page where it tells them everything that my dad is going through, except the new part, which is the new development, which is
how much money are you seeking to raise?
Oh my gosh! In order to keep him like alive and do all of this, we have projected about 145,000.
Wow!
And we have raised 12,000, but of that, it's been since November that this happened. So we have like depleted that. So this is the reason why I've like come here, because we're at a point that he's in a critical condition, and we have depleted the funds just to make sure he's alive. So it's
all right. Well, good luck with it. Give out the information one more time where people should go to GoFundMe, and what are they looking up? Carol?
Yeah, Carol, Roos. So let me look it up 1 second to tell you the exact. Oh, la, la.
And our guest is Karen Roos, as you heard, just discovered 7 years ago that she has Jewish ancestry. Her great-grandfather was Jewish, but became a Lutheran, married a non-Jewish woman. And 7 years ago, she discovered that she has these roots and has a bunch of Jewish relatives, and she herself is considering converting to Judaism. Let's get that information from people to help your father.
Yes. Again, that's the GoFundMe, and that the title of the GoFundMe is "Give Our Dad a Fighting Chance," and it's organized by my sister Carol, Carol. Last name is Roos, as in Sam.
Anyway, Karen, thank you for joining with us. Continued success, and
Thank you so
let
much.
us know about your quest to get more involved with the Jewish people.
Yeah, thanks. I will let you know. Thanks so much.
Thank you. My
I
pleasure.
appreciate it. Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to
Talkline with Zev Brenner, America's premier Jewish broadcast, the pulse beat of the Jewish community.
For continuous Jewish programs, TalklineNetwork.com, or our 24-hour-a-day listen line at 641-741-0389. For past shows, you can find us on iTunes, Spotify, Amazon, YouTube, Instagram, and all major podcast platforms, or jewishpodcast.org. Thanks for listening to the TalklineNetwork.com.
Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Terrific. Thank you. So we did a good job, and it's already